Hey guys, it's your pal Victor here from Cult Classics, and I want to talk about Joker, Folie, Deux, The Madness of Two, which hits theaters on October 4th, early screenings October 3rd, that whole scenario. I want to talk about this movie. I got things to say. I'm going to say them, and I feel like they need to be heard. So, I like this movie a lot. I think this movie is fun. I think it's a throwback to some cool old school musicals. And I like musicals. We play like Little Shop of Horrors, Repo the Genetic Opera. Hell, House, 1977's Japanese horror movie, is a musical in many ways. Very much in the same way as the Joker, Folie Deux is a musical, and this is a companion piece to the 2019 film, which also starred Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck. And this is going to be a largely spoiler-free review. I will get to a point where I can say you can stop watching if you don't want spoilers, but largely I'm going to go into this spoiler-free. So the main thing I want to talk about here is I feel like there's a sense of entitlement when it comes to films that are based on superhero properties. Like, the only people who could possibly enjoy certain types of films are dudes who are into this certain kind of thing. And I don't really think that's even remotely true anymore. I feel like comic book movies, the audience for comic book movies are people who grew up watching comic book movies. People don't really read comics anymore, and the discourse I've seen for Joker, Folie Deux really backs that up in my mind, because this film, without getting very much into spoilers, is more of an origin story for Harley Quinn, in the way that we know her from the Sean Murphy White Knight comic universe. So if you guys watched the Snyderverse, you guys know those movies are largely based on chopped up segments or ideas from The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. If you watch Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, that movie is a largely, I like this idea from The Dark Knight Returns, this idea, but not the whole story. That is what this movie, Joker, Folie Deux, is. It takes a major subplot from Sean Murphy's White Knight series, which I'm going to explain right now, and mixes it with the Broadway musical Chicago, so that Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn here is largely a mix of Mary Andrews and Roxy Hart. Roxy Hart in Chicago is basically this girl who, I don't want to spoil that too much, but she ends up in jail, and the musical is largely a commentary on celebrity criminal culture versus how one person one-ups another with this other character, Vera. Basically, a lot of the gist of the story is a remix of Chicago with Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn being Roxy Hart, but also a lot of the story really applying to Joaquin's Arthur Fleck. The rest is a riff from White Knight. Now, White Knight, a big aspect of this story is Jack Napier, the Joker, becomes rehabilitated. He's no longer the Joker, he's Jack Napier, and he wants to live this life. He wants to leave the Joker behind. And if you see this movie, you'll see how this manifests itself. Harley Quinn, the Harley Quinn we know, the cartoon Harley Quinn, was always in love with Jack Napier and did not care for the Joker. But at some point, Harley leaves the Joker, but he's so into being the Joker that he drafts a girl he's robbing at a bank named Mary Andrews into just being Harley Quinn. And this new Harley Quinn is actually in the comic kind of a commentary on the movie Harley Quinn. She dresses like the Suicide Squad Margot Robbie Harley Quinn. And when Jack becomes rehabilitated, is no longer the Joker, this Harley Quinn is incensed because she's in love with the Joker, not Jack Napier, while cartoon Harley Quinn now gets Jack Napier. So new Harley Quinn becomes this character called Neo Joker with different makeup that also looks like this. So you see, this is sort of the inspiration for the movie. Not really gonna get any deeper than that because I feel like you should enjoy this movie on its own merits, but I just want to let you know that this movie's inspirations are a fairly recent, very popular comic book that spawned multiple spin-offs and a musical that is extremely popular. Like, for God's sake, Scandival on Vanderpump Rules, Tom Sandoval's girlfriend, Ariana, she became Roxy Hart because she was so popular from this Scandival Vanderpump Rules thing last year. And regularly, people play Roxy Hart on Broadway in Chicago who are very famous. This is a very popular musical. But much like wrestling fans, comic book movie fans kind of live in this insular universe where everything is made for them. But here's what you gotta realize. Lady Gaga is a worldwide musical superstar, right? Like when you talk about Taylor Swift, here's Lady Gaga. They're very close to each other on that scale. So if you're having a musical starring Lady Gaga, you know the fan base for that is bigger than the fan base that there would be to see a comic book movie whose fatiguing audiences have largely been peaked this year with Wolverine and Deadpool. People who are going to go see Wolverine and Deadpool are not the same people who would go see Joker Folie. So what I'm trying to say here, without sounding elitist on any level or trying to leave a prejudicial idea here, is that this movie, Joker Folie à Deux, has a different fan base than most comic book movies. And this is where it gets interesting because I feel like this is a companion piece of the Joker, but the same people that like the Joker are probably not the same people who are going to like this movie. Because the Joker is very much like this meditation on mental illness, but also like a Fight Club kind of thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to Breaking Bad my way out of this victimhood and start like a street revolution. It's like a Tyler Durden sort of deal. But also, if you watch Fight Club, you realize Tyler Durden and the whole idea of, male victimhood is actually being sort of parodied in that movie. And again, I'm not trying to sound elitist. I'm just saying there's depths to certain movies, and people only look at certain things at like face value. And this is one of those movies where, like, I think people are going to look at this movie and where it goes in certain places and be really angry by it because it's not the movie they built in their mind. So that's the whole preface here, okay? Now, here's where I'm going to get into, like, my thoughts on this movie. Like I said, I feel like it's a meditation on this movie on Chicago. That's entertainment, and I feel like the songs in this movie are amazing. Like there's jazz standards, soul music, some kind of jukebox musical numbers where you kind of see like songs you would know being remixed, and I like that and taken down in different ways. And Joaquin Phoenix can sing because you've seen like Walk the Line, right? And I feel like this movie also is sort of taking the piss on the original Joker movie because there's a riff in this movie about, well, Arthur's in jail. There was a TV movie made about his life. And the TV movie is like code for the original film. Like if you go to, Walt Disney World and you go to Pandora and you talk about Avatar the movie, the cast and crew members will talk about the documentary, or if you go to Star Wars Land, they'll talk about, the legends. In this, the Joker movies, the TV movie. So I think that's a lot of fun too. Um, the basic gist of this movie plot is this is the trial for Arthur for the events that happened in the original Joker movie. So it kind of wheels out people from the original movie and forces Arthur to come to terms with, did he really want to do this? It's kind of like a Crime and Punishment kind of thing, you know? It's like, is he the Superman Joker, you know, like the Raskolnikov kind of scenario, or is he just, you know, this broken person and he did this to act out on the rage and pent up issues that, you know, led him to kill these people? And I feel like it does a good job of doing that. And I've seen some reviews where people, I feel it goes completely over their head, like they're looking for like this really, you know, dumbed down explanation of what this movie's about, and it's like there's a lot going on here, you know. And one of the big things that's going on here is Lady Gaga's character, you know, Lee, Harley Quinn, who very much, I feel people at face value are going to take her as like a Manson girl, which she's not at all. And the third act of this movie, I feel really upends that in a way that I feel people either get it or you're just going to be angry about it, you know, like, because really, again, I'm going to tell you guys, Harley is the main character in this movie. She is. Joker is a supporting character. I mean, you can see it's a 2-lead scenario, but this movie, I think, makes it very clear that, like, while our point of view character is Arthur, he is not going to function without Lee. And I feel like one of the issues I have with this movie is I kind of would like to know more about Lee's backstory. Like, they should, you know, but I get why you can't do it because of the way this movie's trajectory is going. So I respect that. I feel just like there's a lot of unanswered questions about her motivation. I mean, not really. You want to know, but like it's not dire to things, you know. And I do like a lot of the Arkham stuff in this, where you see how he is, his relationship with the guards, especially this character Jackie, played by Brendan Gleeson, who basically treats Arthur as his pet. You know, he gives him treats for telling good jokes. And in many ways, it's a thing where he's being infantilized by an adult, you know, to do tricks. But when he's confronted with what a small person he is, he can't really deal with it. And I think that's what makes this movie interesting, is just seeing, you know, character being explored and manipulated through the media and through emotions, you know. And there's a lot of fun set pieces here that show that off. There's this one that you might have seen if you watch the trailers, where it's kind of like the Sonny and Cher show, but it says Joker and Harley. And it's about power dynamics. Who has the real power in that relationship? Because in the Sonny and Cher show, Sonny got top billing, but Cher was the star. And that's pretty much the dynamic that seems to be happening in this movie. You know, like who's benefiting from who? You know, is there really a scenario here where Arthur and Lee end up happily ever after? You know, and my take on it is like that was never a scenario, because just like Mary Andrews and aka Neo Joker and Sean Murphy's White Knight, Lee is not in love with Arthur Fleck. Lee is in love with the Joker, you know. And the fantasy, the concept of the Joker is all that she cares about. It's irrelevant who that person even was. And it's something that I think is an interesting inversion of the comic, because if you read the comic books, the Joker has no name. Sean Murphy gives him the name Jack Napier from the movie, but the Joker's a cipher. It's just a concept for contained madness, you know, and that madness is barely contained, right? And you know, there's a point where I feel like Lee sees that fire in Arthur, but then that kind of goes a different way. So if you want to see this kind of exploration of a character, where they go, how they confront who they are, is there multiple facets to Arthur versus Joker, then you should totally check out Joker Folie. Deux. If you like musicals, it's an extra bonus. Alright, so that's my 2 cents review. Now I'm going to get into spoilers in a minute, so I'm just going to give you a chance. So I'm just going to say, man, this is like gravity. All it takes is a little push. 1, 2, 3. Alright, you can leave because I'm about to get into spoilers right now. Alright, so you're probably gone now, or you're here. So either way, I'm going to talk about spoilers for this movie. So I've been talking about the whole Neo Joker, Mary Andrews thing, and like I said, Harley's the main character in this movie. She is in love with the Joker. She saw the TV movie 4 or 5 times. She gets herself incarcerated at Arkham just to be with the Joker. So the first thing she asks Arthur is, are you him? Not are you Arthur, are you him? You know? And this is a concept the movie plays with the whole time, is how important the Joker is to Lee. And to the point where when Arthur, at a point in this movie, being confronted with the weight of his actions by talking to Gary Puddles and seeing how afraid Gary is of him, Joker, he doesn't want to be the Joker. He wants to be Arthur. He realizes he killed these people, he acted out, but he doesn't want to be this monster. The Joker is a fantasy, and Harley walks out on him. That's when it's over for him as the Joker. Even when he finds Lee again and says, we can go off and be happy, she's like, no, the Joker's gone. And that leads to the third act of this movie, and something I know people who have seen this movie are having a very, very hard time with. Cope is the word I'm using. Because there's a point in this movie where Arthur's incarcerated after he breaks out. He finds Lee, she rejects him, and he ends up back at Arkham waiting for sentencing. And he has a visitor, an unnamed visitor, who we are never told who it is, but the only person who's ever visited Arthur is Lee. So he's walking, and this whole movie, there is an inmate at Arkham, this guy who has a smile on his face the whole time. We know nothing about this guy. We never learn his name. He has no dialogue up until the end of this third act, and he comes up and he says, hey, Arthur, I got a joke for you. And he's like, oh, I got a minute. It's like, oh, it's only going to take a minute. And this guy tells Arthur a joke about a clown meeting a psychopath. And it's basically a reprise of the way that Arthur kills Murray Franklin. And this guy goes up and he shivs Arthur to death. Maniacally laughing while he does it, while he disappears into the soft focus of the background as Arthur bleeds out. We see he takes this knife that he just stabbed Arthur to death with and uses it to give himself a Glasgow smile as he laughs, and that is the way that the movie ends. So basically, some people are having a hard time that this unnamed man, whose name we know nothing of his origin, we're led to believe is the comic book Joker, or that Arthur is going to inspire Jokers no matter what happens. And one of those will eventually be the Joker who takes on the Batman. Because here's the thing, guys. If you watched Joker, which came out in 2019, in the climax of that movie, Joe Chill kills Thomas Wayne and his wife, Martha. And Bruce Wayne is left an orphan. And he's maybe 12 or 13. This takes 2 years. This movie takes place 2 years after Joker. So Arthur Fleck was never going to be the Joker we know. Lee, who we meet in this movie, is younger than Arthur, but we're told she's a rich girl. She's dabbled in exploring psychiatry. She took some classes, so at some point she will become Dr. Harleen. She isn't now, but that future Dr. Harleen, who is in love with the concept of the Joker, will eventually meet someone at Arkham who is the Joker, not Arthur Fleck. That is the whole point of this movie, to establish these ideas of archetypes, and how people deal with madness, influence from celebrity culture. That's the whole point of this movie, you guys. So if that sounds interesting to you, and you like soul music and cool cinematography, you're probably going to dig this movie. If you're really bothered by the idea that Arthur Fleck was not the Joker from the comic book, but you love the idea that he might be from watching the first movie, then don't watch this movie. Or you can watch it and separate the two. Much like you separate Arthur Fleck and the Joker and Harley and Neo Joker. So that's the whole thing, guys. This movie remixes a comic book that was fairly popular in the last 10 years with a continually, perpetually popular musical that deals with celebrity culture in trials. There you go. That's Joker Folie Deux. If you enjoyed my thoughts, please feel free to give me a follow. Otherwise, we'll talk to you later. Thanks, guys.